Does the Preyton need a hug in Tides of Torment? There's so much hate and malice here that we can conclude the Preyton was not hugged enough as a child. Maybe it needs a visit from the Care Bears. But as a general serving the ruinous powers, you're fine with the Preyton directing all that hatred toward your enemies. Let's look at the details. Recruited for 1650 gold and for 113 upkeep, on Ultra scale the Preyton comes in at 7,289 health. That is beefier than the Chimera, but you will quickly see from the model that this is a middleweight monster too, and is not some dread Saurian in the skies. Armor is 60, which isn't that great, but physical resistance 20% and missile resistance 45% means it will be difficult to easily bring down. Leadership 70 is acceptable for a monster, but not fantastic. Speed 90 and Sharp Speed 90 are decent figures, but it'll run slower than it flies. Melee attack begins at 50 and carries poison with each blow. This is good for general purposes because aside from the rare entity immune to it, a 15% debuff to enemy speed and melee or missile damage makes hunting a little less dangerous. A little. Attack interval is the standard 4 seconds, splash target size large means trolls will dilute damage too, and max targets damaged by splash, regardless of how many are disrupted, is 5. Melee defense 28 isn't that high, but isn't the worst among monsters. Weapon strength 485 is split base 120 and armor piercing the annual rate of 365, leap year not applicable. You do, however, have a bonus versus large of 20, so there's a lot of leaping involved. Charge bonus is 40 and mass is 2800. This siege attacker causes fear and terror and has the devastating flanker ability, doubling charge bonus from the flank or rear. The Endless Malice passive provides plus 25% weapon strength and plus 8 melee attack when enemies are broken or fleeing within a 35-meter range, which is less likely to happen with undead factions obviously. Furthermore, it has the Frenzy trait, so unless leadership is beaten down below 50% of base value, melee attack plus 10, weapon strength plus 10%, and charge bonus plus 10%. Immunity to psychology is relevant because ye who causes terror is immune to it, game-wise. All-consuming hatred, cooldown 120 seconds, duration 25 seconds, affects the Preyton itself, lowering melee defense by 12 and adding 28 points of melee damage reflection. This is a stop hitting yourself mechanic against mostly infantry or large entity cavalry. Let's address the Regiment of Renown, the Scourge of Arden. Recruited for 1800 gold and for 163 upkeep, as we might expect. Leadership 80 is 10 better, melee attack 61 in a rank 9 state is 11 better, melee defense 36 is 8 better. The other stats are unchanged. The unit card says it has Forced Stalker. The traits say it has Vanguard Deployment, which is good, and Strider, which eliminates combat penalties in Forest, and I checked, this combination still eliminates Forest Strider's benefits in the 7.0.3 hotfix beta. Well, someday it'll be useful, and Strider is useful. In the Nakari-style redline skills, such sights to show you, at 3 pips, gives melee attack plus 6 and weapon strength plus 12%. Secret Keeper would at rank 7 and above, would grant rank 7 and above Preytons, including the Scourge, leadership plus 5, melee defense plus 5, and bonus versus infantry plus 7. Mortal Chaos Lords will use monstrous strength, for weapon strength plus 10% and melee attack plus 8, and Freakish Mutations gives rank 7 and above ones leadership plus 8, melee attack plus 5, and ward save plus 5%. Well, what about Beastmen? Beast Lord's Lash at 3 pips would grant melee attack plus 6 and charge bonus plus 12 flat. Creatures of the Herd would grant rank 7 and up ones, speed plus 10%, charge bonus plus 12 flat again, and missile resistance plus 15%. Given the filth protecting the Preyton, it's in the unit card, from missiles. This last one is pretty powerful. In the Slaanesh tech tree, we should have just Slaanesh fighters for plus 6 leadership, overbearing force for plus 10% weapon strength and plus 10% ward save, nothing wrong with that, and mortal obsession for minus 10% upkeep and reduced recruitment time. In the Beastmen tech tree, Rampage provides plus 10% weapon strength, and the Rewards of Ruin grants plus 10% more missile resistance. So how do we use the Preyton? This is going to be a little different depending on the faction. For Slaanesh, yeah, since you got the DLC for this, you also have potentially devotees with crossbows, but there's not a whole lot of other ways to support it while in the air. Beastmen obviously have a whole bunch of Air Force units, including the new Chimera. This is a specialist. It should be used more as a scalpel than bludgeon, because it doesn't have the raw damage against massed infantry to do that job alone. But it's a great force multiplier working with friendly forces. And poison where you want it, when you want it, because flying monsters pick their battles, is convenient. It gives you a way to aggrieve enemies either alone, if you have an overwhelming advantage, or part of a dog pile, which requires getting on the ground and supporting your amazing melee forces, including your lords. Frenzy, anti-large, a temp melee reflection for helping with mosh pit situations, and this level of resistance to missile damage gives you options, but this is more of a disruptor than a bludgeon. In enough cases, you have to be a little careful with it. Still, the fact you do have Devastating Flanker with it means you should have it backstab enemy lords engaged with your lord and all sorts of other devious little tricks. I had one face tank Demigryph Knights with lances. That's not the ideal situation, but sometimes a stress test is good for a video. Overall, it's good, yeah, but don't overestimate how far you can push the melee defense and middling armor. It's built to be a cruel left hook, not the body punches. Use with anvils aggressively. That, and it's a Terra monster that attacks harder when enemies start breaking and routing. It will snowball well. As others have said though, the Beastmen are eating well this patch. Take care, and have fun being the Scourge of the Forest. Hell with defense, just not having your melee attack nerfed amongst the trees will make this a terror to every elemental chicken around.